Hi guys, this is Mr. Tan, and we're doing hospitality operations, and this is still part of week 1 and session 2. And if we recall from the last slides that we were looking at the hotel industry and a hotel specifically, and the operations of a hotel. And if you remember, we looked at the general manager and who would report to the general manager, and the operations manager who would report to the general manager, and then the other managers of different departments that would report to the operations manager. And if you remember, we discussed the operations manager dealing with the day-to-day running of the business, whereas the general manager was the strategic, higher level management in terms of the overall direction and how the hotel was performing in a given calendar year in terms of a financial year. So the learning outcomes on these slides include to identify the operational aspects required of accommodation services to meet customer requirements, to examine the operational aspects of accommodation services in relation to any other departments in order to provide high standards of customer service, analyze the effectiveness of operations management practices in a range of organizational situations within the hospitality industry, and to discuss approaches to achieve and monitor operational effectiveness. You see, here we're talking about management operations, and we're specifically focusing on the hotel industry and the operations of different departments of a medium to large type hotel and how it runs. But we're talking about the operational effectiveness. And why are we talking about the operational effectiveness? Well, we're talking about it because it's important to the success of the hotel in the future in terms of being effective and efficient, satisfying consumers' needs so that they come back to you satisfied and talking about your hotel in a positive way rather than looking at your hotel in a negative way, and therefore losing you profit in terms of the lifetime value of the customer. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the profitability of a hotel over the long term due to its operational effectiveness and efficiency, meeting customers' needs and expectations. So the session objectives is to identify the operational aspects required of accommodation services to meet customer requirements. So we're looking at the obviously the front of house, and we're focusing on the front of house in terms of the receptionist, but more importantly the room attendants. Examine the role of the housekeeper in a hotel, examine room occupancy rates, and discuss health and safety factors, which may include legionnaires, fire training, manual handling, risk assessments, and work time regulations. So these things we're going to be looking at. So an overview will be the hierarchy of the housekeeping department, the day in life of a housekeeper, head housekeeper, room checklists, room occupancy, staffing, some legislation, and then conclusions. So if we look at the hierarchy of the structure of the housekeeping department, and the housekeeping department would report to the front of house manager, and the front of house manager would report to the operations manager. So the housekeeping manager would predominantly in a medium to large type hotel would have an assistant housekeeper, and then the assistant housekeeper would obviously have various other people reporting to them, including public areas, supervisors, laundry, and supervisors that deal with the room attendants for that hotel. And then you have the supervisor and room attendants. So this is predominantly a typical housekeeping hierarchical structure for the housekeeping department. So the average day of a head housekeeper might be 6:30 start, handover with night porter, number of rooms sold last night, room changes or guest comments regarding rooms, empty room check, are they all empty and clean, assign rooms to each maid. Most reservation systems do this automatically, and give deep cleaning job of day, e.g. under the bed, turning mattress, etc. 7 a.m. public areas. PA starts, assign specific areas to concentrate on for that day. 7:30 to 10. Room attendants start cleaning the rooms. 10 a.m. departmental morning meeting. Confirm rooms sold and actual dirty rooms. Investigate any discrepancies. Informed of any VIP rooms which need preparing. And then to meet with laundry, linen room, and manage laundry. Budget how many towels and sheets per room sold. Remainder of the shift may include checking rooms to correct standards, continuous training of room attendants. Very important to maintain standards and to make sure that they are actually following the operational procedures for cleaning a room. Checking public areas, making sure that you don't have dissatisfied customers. So a checklist. This is a checklist in terms of a housekeeper checklist. Self-inspection. So again, the housekeeping manager may have this checklist to check every single day and determine if these are being done and to what standard. Room occupancy now. So if we look at the room occupancy is the ratio of total occupied rooms to total available rooms. So how many is occupied in comparison to a ratio of how many rooms are available? What is the percentage? Room departments have a budgeted payroll to clean the number of rooms sold. If there is discrepancy, this takes them over budget and affects the profitability of the hotel. So we're saying that you have X number of rooms sold, and so you've got to allocate a cost to cleaning these rooms. But if you go over or there's a discrepancy, then you're going to be over budget. Different hotels have different budgets on how long a room attendant may take to clean a room. This depends on the standard of hotel, amount of dustable items in the room, and the size of the room. Often suites have a different time frame. So in terms of how the hotel is performing financially, average 20 to 30 minutes per room. This is an average, and of departures and stayovers. But this will depend from hotel to hotel. How many rooms per attendant? Well, each hotel chain has a different standard of how many rooms a room attendant should clean on a particular shift. The average length of shift, break, and times, the time per room. So an 8-hour shift minus a 30-minute break, okay, gives you times 20 minutes per room, which gives you 3 per hour. Okay, so that is on average in one shift 22.5 rooms per shift. Okay, so we can see in terms of allocating a cost to that room attendant and allocating how long things should take and how long it should take within a specific time period, taking into consideration the break. And it's important to stick to these budgets, because if someone is taking a lot longer to clean the rooms, then that means you need someone else to clean the rooms that haven't been done, or you need that person to stay longer to clean the rooms that haven't been done, therefore incurring an additional cost and therefore reducing the profitability of the hotel. So it is very important to maintain these times, but at the same time as maintaining the times it takes to clean a room, to ensure that these are done according to operational standards and operational quality as well. How many attendants per shift? Well, the number of rooms sold, minus the number no-shows equals the number of rooms. Okay, number of rooms occupied. This should equal the number of dirty rooms. Okay, so the number of rooms sold minus the no-shows equals the number of rooms occupied, and this should equal the number of dirty rooms. Okay, number of rooms occupied divided by the number of rooms per shift equals the number of attendants required. So the number of rooms occupied divided by the number of rooms per shift will give you the number of attendants required. Okay, but you're going to need this information a lot way beforehand in order to allocate how many room attendants you actually need to clean the rooms. So if you have 258 divided by number of rooms, which is 22, so you're going to need 12 attendants. Room occupancy task. So we're not going to look at this. So administration and communication. So these are some tasks. Room attendants must ensure they understand what rooms they have to clean and in which order. Administration and communication is vital to ensure rooms are returned clean, ready for new guests. Very, very important. Very important. It's done to a good standard in terms of operational standards and procedures. Daily activities. Following a list of activities a room attendant may be required to complete on a daily basis. As you can see, there are many activities a room attendant is responsible for in a normal work shift, involving a wide variety of knowledge and skills. Prepare for work, collect master keys, collect the daily room allocation sheets, stock housekeeping trolleys, stock and store supplies, determine the order of cleaning rooms, identify any special requests. So we can see that when we're looking at the daily tasks that a room attendant would need to do, these are all some of the things that they would need to do. Other things they would need to do in terms of following operational procedures, in terms of cleaning a room, would be to, and it's very, very specific: enter room, knock on door, in compliance with policy, open the door, place the trolley in the path of the door, clean the room. It tells you next, open the curtains and windows for ventilation, then remove used guest amenities and rubbish, then clean the towels, tubs, sinks and bathroom items, then change the linen and make the beds, check for damaged linen items, inspect the rooms for safety hazards and for operating conditions and equipment, and report defects to the maintenance department, report lost and found articles, maintenance problems or special room problems. But even when we think about each item, so for instance, let's have a look, change linen and make beds. Well, there will be an operating procedure in terms of how one would actually change the linen and make the bed from left to right, front to back. So there would be an operation procedure telling you exactly how to change the linen and make the beds, and this needs to be followed to the correct standards. Likewise, the attendants would need to dust and clean the room, decorations, appliances and structural surfaces, wall fixtures and wall seals and vents. Dust, brush, polish, vacuum furniture, replenish guest amenities and supplies, check, record and replenish the minibar, prepare rooms for guest arrival and respond to special guest requests such as delivering newspapers or cleaning a spill, deliver and retrieve items on loan to guests such as an iron or ironing board, perform rotation cleaning duties such as steam clean of carpets as required, vacuum and sweep carpets and other floor surfaces, mop the floor surfaces as needed, record room status on work assignment sheets, phone supervisor or reception updates status of room and close the door. So the operation procedure in terms of what the room attendant needs to do, how they need to do it, is very, very specific. And also, then you look at the operational procedures in terms of each one of these areas, in terms of how to actually carry this out. So this is very, very specific. The other issues that needs to be taken into consideration is legislation. When we think about legislation, what legislation, can you think of in your research that would be applicable to a hotel that they would need to comply with? COSH, Legionnaire's disease, fire training, manual handling, risk assessments, working time regulations, care of substances hazard to health. COSH is used for risk reduction, aims for full risk avoidance. Each chemical used has an information sheet, with which, if ingested, should go to the patient and should go with the patient to the hospital. Let staff know which chemicals should and should not be used together. So if we look at it in terms of what we've looked at today, we've looked at the hierarchy, an average day, in the department of the housekeeping department. We've looked at the standards, we've looked at room occupancy and legislation. And all this is very, very important. There would be manuals in terms of, for example, in terms of housekeeping and the room attendants, what they would need to do step by step in terms of cleaning the rooms. There would be then additional standards by step guides detailing how they make a bed, how they clean the bathroom. And so this is very, very specific, and this is important to maintain these operational procedures, but not only to maintain the operational procedures, but to also maintain the quality of standards required in order to ensure that the customers are satisfied and they come back to your hotel. So the hierarchy and average day of the department very important, and knowing about the rooms and how many staff you need, very, very important. Knowing about how many rooms need to be cleaned, again, all very, very important in the day of the housekeeper. Standards are very, very important, because there's no point cleaning a room if the standards are not met. Room occupancy, again, important to know exactly what you need to do, where, when and how. And legislation needs to be taken into consideration to make sure that the hotel is compliant with that legislation. So thank you today from Mr. Tan.